This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio. Of course, we do the Town Hall Academy, we do Aftermarket Weekly, and we're the expert, if you will, in business acumen because of the great topics we cover and the trends that we cover, and great people like Vic Tarasik coming on the show to talk about an incredible topic, fraud. Wow, Vic, thank you for raising your hand when we were in a group and says, who wants to talk about fraud? And you didn't hesitate, your hand went up. And when people's hands go up that quickly, you know what that means? Been there, done that.
Oh, heck yeah. I have been there. It's not been fun. Got the t-shirt. Didn't like the ride.
I got after with fraud. I know. I'm hearing you, man. So anyway, we have some great lessons, some great case studies, if you will, not only from Vic's personal when he owned a shop, but some of your clients that have just gotten clobbered. We've got a great chart we're going to show you later on what kind of volume you need to recover any loss of fraud based on the net profit that you make. And I think you should all prepare and sit down when you see that. It's not hard to calculate, but I think when you see it in a chart form, it's gasting, if you will. So it all starts out, you sent me your talking points and they're great. I just can't wait to dig into it. But Vic says, listen, Ronald Reagan pretty much summed it up. What do you say?
Trust but verify. Very simple. Trust but verify. It's really good to be trusting. And what I love about shop owners, and I was one of them, we have an innate sense to want to trust everybody, especially our family, our employees. But if we don't have something in place to verify, when the cat's away, just fill in the rest.
And there's so many different ways that people, I think, stay up at night and try to figure it out. There's a factor of trust that I've always wanted to give to my people. And when I worked for other people, to have them trust me. If I wasn't handling money, there's a certain bit of openness that happens when you're not touching money, you're not doing deposits, you're not calculating the day end numbers. But there's so many other ways that people can, and it goes back to parts credits, core credits. There's so many other ways, even if it's not cash, that it can happen. And I know you're going to cover that. So in your first 4 years of shop ownership, what happened?
Oh, man. I hired people as we needed them. And I was, I'll call it a babe in the woods. I was that typical Buffalonian. In Buffalo, we trusted everybody because, we're going to treat people the way we want to be treated. And I wanted people to trust me. So what did I do? I extended them trust. I didn't have anything in place. And next thing, a few dollars missing here, a few dollars missing here, there. $30,000 later, the manager that I put in place skimmed a bunch of money off. On top of that, he tried to skim my people off and start his own shop. Thankfully, I had somebody loyal in the hen house who alerted me, or I could have been in some serious trouble because he was trying to recruit everybody. It's amazing when you don't have something in place because, again, you want to trust them, and not everybody's trustworthy. The systems will keep them in line. The curbs will keep us out of the ditch.
It hurts, Vic.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I look back on that. That was my first 4 years. That was 25 years ago, and I remember you and I talking today.
Yeah.
I'll be blunt, it sucked.
I don't believe there's anyone who's listening that hasn't had some form or fashion of this happen to them. And if not, you know a loved one, a very close friend that it's happened to. Empathy is one thing by saying, I feel your pain because I've been there before. Sympathy is one nice thing if you've never had it done to you. And the reason we do podcasts that we bring up this kind of stuff is to condition you, to try to callous you, to listen to this stuff and never say the question, it won't happen to me. Because the minute I think you let your guard down and your people notice or see it, then you become vulnerable.
Yeah, it's amazing. It might be a quart of oil. It might be 5 quarts. It might be, I'll take $10 out of the till and I'll put it back tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes and I need another 10. And the boss isn't watching. I'm going to pay it back eventually. And one of the studies we'll talk about up ahead, that's exactly what happened. They took a little bit here, a little bit there. The boss didn't notice. 6 figures later.
So let me share this. Just give me a minute or two.
Mhm.
Family business, Italian growing up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so interesting is that the matriarchs of the family was Grandpa John, Grandma Rose Capriato. And for years, Grandma Rose was the chief head cook, cashier, and bottle washer. And growing up in the business, being very young, teens and then early 20s, I couldn't figure out why she wanted to handle the cash and do the strike and the checkout at night and make the deposit. And I says, there's other people that can do that, Grandma. You don't have to be here all the time. Until it starts happening to you. And then one day he says, where's my grandma? So to a point, and here's why. Grew up in the Depression, didn't have any money, coveted every nickel or dime or penny that you could earn back then. And so it didn't matter how inflation or how big the dollars got and how big the business got, those practices of managing cash, managing systems, managing bank deposits, verifying and double checking that what you said went in the bank did go in the bank and all that stuff. And so many of us came out of from being a great technician to being a business owner, quote, business owner. We had no idea. No one ever taught us what's the system like? How do we double check and verify anything? We'll just take this stuff to the bank. It's cash. I don't know if it's the right number. I don't know if there's enough in the envelope. I don't know if it was shorted. You just dump it in. Sooner or later, Vic, over all the years of mismanagement, bam.
It's like getting whacked out of the 2x4.
Yeah. I think I'm making money, but there's no cash.
And that can be the largest part of the problem. Is I've simply put it this way. Are you certain what's coming in your door financially is going in your bank? It's not rocket science. But you look at the amount of things that are responsibilities that a shop owner has every day. Counting the cash is not on the top of their list. I've got money in the bank. I'm flush. It's busy. But the thing is, you want to make certain every dime and every penny get in the bank. And honestly, I think there's one really interesting belief set in the shop. And you've heard this as a parts store owner. Oh, you've got to be rich. You're a business owner. So what do? We relax because we want our employees to accept us. We're not rich. They don't see the books. They don't see the stresses. They don't see what keeps us up at night. And because we relax, because we want to be accepted, we don't count the dollars. I've walked into shops and I hear technicians saying that owners, all he cares about is counting the money. Honestly, by him counting the money, what he's doing is he's taking care of the people in the shop, because as he's counting the money, he's ensuring that he can keep his shop doors open. He can put healthcare on the table. He can give them benefits. So as a shop owners need to take that degree of responsibility and realize, if I don't mind the store and I don't keep track of the money, something's going to give somewhere. Where is it going to be? Is it going to be me? Is it going to be the employee? Am I going to lose X, Y, or Z? You don't know.
I look at the response to someone saying, all you do is care about counting the money. The answer is, thank God I do. That's the response.
Yeah.
What do you mean, boss? You want to get paid? Vendors want to get paid. The heat, the light people want to get paid.
Yeah.
Parts bill has to get paid. Thank God I am counting and verifying and triple verifying. And, well, don't you trust me? I trust you. But my job is to be sure that the job you do gets done the way we outlined it.
Yeah.
That our systems are right and in place. And in fact, I count on you. If you see any holes in our system, please let me know. That tells everyone you are looking. You are paying attention to everything. In fact, I think one of the greatest things is to come out and says, hey, I just want to show you how I do. I check the bank against the deposit slip. I just part of the stuff that I do in the back office. I just want to show you. It's not like I want to brag how much I'm working. I just want to let you know that the work that I take home at night, it's important.
Yeah, it is important. Well, and you nailed it, keeping the light bills on. And you've experienced it. Shop owners who can't pay their bills. That's one thing. It's a thorn in my side, because I talk to a lot of parts companies and they're like, man, I really wish our owners could pay their bill. I'm having to extend credit. To me, it's pretty simple. You buy a part, The customer pays you for it. However many widgets you buy that week, you got paid for it. You're simply a steward of that money to go back to the vendor who sold you the components. It's not that difficult, but if you're missing it on another end, that's one of the areas that something has got to give. And my parts vendor is going to extend me credit 3-6 months later. You still owe 10 grand.
Hey, look, if you earn your living in the automotive service aftermarket, Apex is for you. Now, if you attended Apex 2022, then you realize the incredible commitment that Apex has to the service professional, shop owner, and technician. Joe's Garage is your place to be with 10 working bays as you experience real live working conditions along with exciting demonstrations and the latest equipment presented. Also, the best tech companies from tools and repair to management software had their latest and the greatest on display. You also attended technical business management training with the industry's best and brightest. Work is already underway to make next year's Apex 2023 even better than ever with more product demos, trending training, marketing, and the latest in business management training to help you grow your sales and profits. Remember, if you earn your living in the aftermarket, then Apex is the expo for you. Continue listening as we bring you the latest from Apex 2023. Save the date, October 31st through November 2nd, 2023. Hey, let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. Napa Trax has made selecting the right shop management system easy by offering the industry's best, most comprehensive SMS. Now, it all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you need to run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice, and having local representation is a huge plus. Customizing Trax to your business, whether you're a one-person shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company, a representative consults with you to help optimize your shop's workflow, efficiency, and profitability. Trax always has the flexibility to do business how you need to do it, which means it can also grow as your business grows. And unlike the other guys, will be there for you after installation with the best training and support in the business. Yes, a learning management system tailored to each role in your company. Simply put, Trax was designed and built for shop owners just like you. Visit us on the web at NapaTrax, that's NapaTracs.com. So let's talk about other profit leaks. I know that you had again, not just in your first 4 years, but you had some other stuff happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's learn from that.
You're talking about the fraudulent type, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of the most interesting ones that I experienced firsthand was when one of my employees, who was my service advisor, he wrote an invoice for a customer. He gave that invoice to the customer, unbeknownst to me, but zeroed the balance out and zeroed the invoice out in my system. So my end-of-day report showed a car came through, but there was no dollars collected because there were no sales. And this was only turned up after this person left. I kept digging to uncover things. It turns out that invoice was $2,500, and it was to an extended warranty company. His friend got $2,500 worth of free work. They turned the $2,500 invoice into the warranty company, and in turn, they split the dough. After finding it, I did reach out to the owner of the vehicle. They did make it right, but it was painful because I wasn't minding the store.
Can you imagine? Okay, here I am ordering parts for this warranty job,
Mm-hmm.
and I call in the repair order number as the PO number to my
Right.
vendor.
Yeah.
And we just recently did an episode with AJ Neely and Joe
Mm-hmm.
Hansen called The Google Nerds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure exactly when that is being released. Fascinating stuff in this, but scanning every invoice and making sure the system can match so you can go into Google search and the Google Docs. I'm not exactly sure, and they can type in that PO number and every document that's connected to it would come up. Now, can you imagine calling up that invoice from the vendor to see what invoice it went on, and you
Mm-hmm.
call up and there's $800 worth of parts here, but the invoice says zero.
Yeah.
Bing! Red flag,
Right.
red flag. And so we have to get smarter in managing our systems and looking at ourselves for double checking. In fact, Vic, networking, coaching, working with your CPA, all of these things need to congeal together so that you can ferret out all of these issues and don't think you're immune to them.
No one is immune to it at all. You saw my talking points: locks on doors keep honest people honest. And what you do is, if you don't mind the store, people who you would allow, who may not take a few shekels here or there, might, because they're in need. Ties on to what you asked me about. What are the other things you noticed in my talking points? I mentioned the money was really drying up. It was drying up, and it didn't make any sense. And I had hired somebody
So
who,
stop for a moment, Vic. It's huge. Money was drying up.
yeah,
You're listening. Let that resonate with you. I'm talking to you, the listener. I'm talking to you, the shop owner. I'm talking to you, the person who thinks that they're going to become a shop owner someday. And they want to become, they have a dream of doing this. Yeah, I know you want to fix cars, take care of customers, but
mhm.
there's so much more to it. And the fact that money dries up, I bet you every shop owner that we know, if we got a room of 800 shop owners, I'll bet you 90% of those hands would go up
Mhm.
from their early days.
Yeah, and
Money
yeah.
dried up.
And we were busy. We were real busy. It just didn't make sense. And what was funny was, he was my store manager. He was a friend of mine. I was the best man in his wedding.
Of course.
Yeah, and we were close, and we went to church together. So this is another thing too. Just because the person goes to church doesn't make them honest. It doesn't matter. People are people. And I went to this person and I go, "Hey, I noticed you've got this started with the credit card slip." He handed me the credit card slip, said, "Hey, this needs to be paid." I delegated him responsibilities that I didn't want to deal with, which was paying the credit card bill. He had his own company credit card, but he handed me just the coupon
No
and, yeah,
detail.
no detail. And I'm like, "Hey, you got the detail on this?" He goes, "Oh no, they didn't send it with it." And
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm like, okay, bing, red flag. So I spent the next couple hours on the phone with Chase, getting statements, digging. This is what I uncovered. A lot of things, but the things that stood out: I paid for his wedding cake. We paid for his engagement ring. We paid for him to go to Trans-Siberian Railroad concert orchestra, whatever, the Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert. We paid for a lot of things simply because I took my hand off the tiller and what did not have something in place. And that was like, there was a lot of money. And the biggest thing I'll put on here is, he made restitution. He was going to jail. I was so burned on this. I went to my attorney and I'm like, "What do I do?" And he goes, "This guy may beat the rap, but he won't beat the ride." He goes, "It's up to you." I go, "Okay."
I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
In,
Yeah.
in a case that I had, Vic, and
Hmm.
I had I had the numbers in front of me and I had the video in front of me, and I actually invited the cops to come in
Hmm.
and look at some of the video
Hmm.
and show them all the documentation that approved it. And they said, "You're talking felony here.
Hmm.
So we can give you a letter and you can sit down with this individual so that you can find yourself your restitution plan."
Hmm.
And I think it's very important to be serious that the rest of the company knows
Hmm.
that jail time, police, whatever it is that you needed to do was an option. It needs
Right.
to be on the table.
Yeah. It does. And one thing I didn't put in my talking points, it's not got nothing to do with the automotive field. My wife used to work for a large oil company. And this is what's fascinating. She had a P card. So, Exxon. So Exxon has a no tolerance policy. You make a mistake, you charge something to yourself, there's a very high probability you're going to be terminated. And so what happened was, she bought something off of Amazon. She had her profile in for home and for work. She actually clicked the wrong credit card. She was aghast when that order got placed, and she didn't realize it until when it came in. It was not on our statement. She went in the day she found out, and it was only like $15. Wasn't much. And when she went to her boss, they're like, "Okay, we got to call in." HR sat down and counseled her, and they're like, then they asked her, "What system are you going to put in place to ensure this doesn't happen again?" Now, she was an executive level assistant to the president. At $15, on the edge of losing her job, and she knew their policy. Do shop owners, have they conveyed that policy? Like you said, is there jail time? Is it termination?
I think you bring up an incredible point that you need to sit down with your HR people, even maybe your attorney,
Mhm.
and put in place that document that every employee today and every future employee signs. Oh, and by the way, I heard I think it was Murray who was on. We were talking about onboarding, and
Mhm.
he talked about the fact that you cannot allow an individual who comes to work for you at 8 in the morning to sign the papers at 12 that afternoon. They
Mhm.
have, before they go out and meet anybody, go in the bays in the shop, get orientated, they have to sign every document. And Murray says, "Trust me, I know it's the right thing to do because I've gotten burned before, only because whatever little tiny flaw in the law, or because there's that 1% of the people that always want to get you." But I think,
Mhm.
to your point, that we can't stress enough, there needs to be a restitution or stealing or theft or fraud clause in your hiring package.
And you have to have the courage to put that plan in place if it happens. Because if it happens and you let that slide, everyone's gonna know you're gonna have no teeth. You're gonna be
None.
yeah, you're gonna be all bark, no bite. And you're honestly, there goes your integrity. If you say you're going to do it,
Yeah,
and no matter the cost, no matter the pressure, if trust gets violated, it's impossible and almost it's like an eggshell. You break an eggshell, it's impossible to put it back together.
yeah,
Trust is easily lost and more difficult to be re-earned.
yeah.
In the workplace, if you have the policy in place, ensure that if you have it in place, you act on it. Don't let it slide. It might be painful, but it'll be worth it.
So just like locking doors, you've got to have systems that have lots of integrity. I can't think enough about repair order reviews and audits,
Mhm.
because that, if in my mind, in your intuition and your common sense, as you're looking through things and say, wow, that would have made us like a $12,000 day. But I remember the numbers and I saw that and it wasn't where all of this stuff floats in, and you could assign that, no doubt, to
Mhm.
someone. But I think as an owner, the person responsible, it's your livelihood, it's your income, it's your sweat equity that you're always looking to preserve and to earn from everything that you've got invested. You've got to stay diligent in
Mhm.
this.
Repair order audits are they're the kind of the tipping point. They're not tipping point, tip of the iceberg because it's a scorecard. And you're right. You see a part on there and it's an ABS module is supposed to be $600 and it turns out it's 100. What's wrong with that? What's wrong here? And I guarantee you owners who are listening right now who have in their gut this little scratchiness that something's going on in their shop, if they looked, they would find something that didn't pass the smell test, and they would find a big hole in their bucket. And I honestly, Carmen, I'm not saying distrust to a massive degree. One, 2% distrust, just enough. Put a system in place, put a lock in place, put a repair audit in place. My gosh, it's your business. No one's going to mind the store like you.
Charlie Marcotte, American Pride out in Virginia, he has this thing called the smell test that you just brought up. And I was talking to his son, Andrew, who's been on the show. And he says, yeah, my dad, has this thing called the smell test. When he goes into a store, he calls it the smell test. He'll know if the store's doing good or it's not.
Mhm.
It's amazing to think that your intuition would be that strong, Vic, that you're not looking to find fault, but you're looking to smell out things that aren't. And
Exactly.
it doesn't mean that there's fraud there. It just could mean that one of the systems that we have in play isn't working correctly.
Mhm.
That there's a weakness, there's a hole in it. And somebody, not from a malicious perspective, did something, but that they failed to do this that caused that to happen, which could show that there's something wrong with our system.
Exactly. And you mentioned intuition. I like to look at it this way. Our subconscious picks up so much more than our conscious mind. So as we're looking things over, it's like our brain's not processing it into a thought, but our brains are processing it, and that's where that something's not right here. And that falls in, yeah, that's intuition. It's that simple.
I think you brought a case study or two with you, didn't you?
Did.
And oh, by the way, let's just talk before we go on in your talking points. I love that you have a list of things you got to verify every day.
Hmm.
Let's
Yeah.
go over that.
Okay. Deposits, end of day reports. End of day reports, they do a couple things. Paul stays on the business. You look over what's come and gone. You catch it before it's gone off the rails. You reconcile. When I say reconcile, some shop owners will go, I don't reconcile my bank account. Basically, you just stack up the money that shows that it come in on the invoice and what did come in. Because when you're verifying credit card receipts, while you might verify what's shown to have come in, if there was a credit that didn't show up on your end of day report, somebody got a credit that didn't belong to them. Not that any of us have ever seen somebody swipe a credit card in the early days of just striping. And that happened to us. It's like I came across, what's this $250 credit? Hesitation. It got explained and it got fixed and it got rectified. Again, that verification of that. So establishing a cash handling process. Where does the money go at the end of the day? Do you put it in an envelope and stack it up to whenever you're going to get to it? Does it go in a safe? Because in my talk, I hesitated to put it. I didn't put it in my talking points. I didn't hesitate. I just forgot about it. We had these cash envelopes disappearing. We just put the envelope, cash, we stick in an envelope, and we'd stick the end of day reports, and we would verify our end of day. But I'd wait 7-10 days to make the deposit. Again, I don't have an answer why. The envelopes began to disappear. And one day we found a torn envelope behind the file cabinet. And we had a young employee who was helping himself because he was under pressure because he just got married. When life habits change, sometimes there's pressure that gets put on people. And when I approached him, he goes, I just didn't want to I didn't want to let my father-in-law down. He lost his job. Guess what he did? He let his father-in-law down.
When you have a bunch of envelopes that no one quite knows what to do with them,
Mm-hmm.
we're waiting for Vic to come by. He won't miss one. You got to go through this stuff. You got to get hardened, and you got to learn how to manage cash, credit. I don't even want to go into the gap between the profit and loss statement says my gross profit margin was this, and why? Because my SMS system says it was this, and the profit and loss statement shows the flow of the numbers, the payables, the credits from the vendors. So you could have $5,000 of credits sitting in the back corner for credit to your account, but if it didn't get into the system and into the profit and loss statement, you have a gap in gross margin. And the fraud that can happen with core credits, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's another angle, but I think what we're talking about in this fraud case is a lot to do with cash, the whole warranty issue, and people buying stuff and billing it to the company. How many stories do we hear where the technician goes to the parts store and buys parts for a car they're working on at night, and it gets billed to you? And there's no RO number that matches. So I think since it's all real and it all happens, it could be one of the biggest, most important things that you could do as a coach with a new client is to say, besides attempting to get the mentality of the owner in the right space moving forward, probably a review of cash management and fraud systems, Vic, could help them find all the money in the world that they need to grow a better business and pay for their coaching.
Oh, agreed. That's one of the first things we go over is what's your cash handling procedure. And when we're talking to them, when we do it in Zoom, you get the head turn, kind of like cow looking at a new gate. Wondering like, what do you mean cash handling? No one ever showed me how.
Oh, wait a minute. I got this wild thought, Vic. Like the Catholic confession, right? He's looking at you as if you're the priest and there's no curtain between you.
Nope.
So you really want me to say confession to you, Vic?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why they hire us, is to be the priest, to be in the confessional, to hold their confidence, because honestly, we want the best for them. And it doesn't matter what coach, as long as they care about the individual. And I've talked to Murray and Bill Haas, and we've talked about this. And we're all like, yeah, we all nod our heads because we've seen it with our clients. And so we talk about cash handling. The one thing that we don't see besides cash handling is POs on work orders.
Yeah.
POs in the parts purchases.
Yeah.
And that's so simple. And in fact, when we instituted that years ago with our vendor, I conveyed to my sales manager, I said, every single part purchased must have a PO. If it doesn't, I will not pay for it, period. So ensure that your entire sales team understands that Vic's Precision Automotive requires this, and they implemented it. They would ask for the PO. It was not rocket science.
You're right. Many suppliers, I'm going to guess today that 90 99% of all suppliers has a switch in their system that says that Vic's auto repair requires a PO. If
Right.
you're in e-commerce, it won't let you skip that field. If you're on the phone with them,
Hmm.
they can't even print the ticket. If they didn't get it from you, they got to call you back and says, "Hey, what's your PO number?" So
Right.
I think the parts suppliers realized that that's a huge value that they can bring to you. And
Mhm.
if you're a shop owner and you're not doing that, those switches exist from your suppliers, and it's the best discipline in the world. So you can tie out every purchase to a customer invoice.
Yeah, and it's something so simple to enact. You have a team meeting with your advisors. You visit with your parts rep. You ensure that when the invoice comes in, it's handled. Expect the first couple invoices to be a little rocky, but it's
Yeah.
very easy to implement. And there's another ability to plug the hole in your bucket.
Yeah. I love one of the examples you sent in about returning unopened rolls of stamps. I know that's small.
I
I
know.
get that. Maybe back in the day, stamps are getting expensive, but still in all, if you give somebody that $20 in,
Hmm.
they say, "Ooh, wow, this was interesting."
Hmm.
Tell us that story.
The young man that was eventually caught with the cash,
Yeah.
he was the one with the stamps. He
Oh,
figured ways around it. And because this all occurred around the same time. We had 3 rolls of stamps, and I think it was $100 worth of stamps. $100 isn't chump change.
mm-mm.
And through the digging and through the holding him accountable process, what happened to the stamps? He's like, it had dropped. He goes, I took him to the post office to get the cash back. And what's funny is I put this kid through school, and that's the hard part. When you look to see as a shop owner how much we love our people and how much we care, and you realize this guy lost his job, and honestly, he lost his job because I didn't put systems in place to ensure that he wasn't tempted. And that's what stinks is as an owner, you realize I could have done a better job. I could have helped this person stay honest at my shop. I can't help them outside the shop, but inside my shop, they can, and they can keep their job.
Another very interesting story is about the towing invoice.
Oh gosh, yeah. That was an interesting one. So here it is, it's New Year's Eve. And I actually handled this customer. I let all my staff go for the day, and my brother-in-law and I came into work, and we had a bunch of stuff we did. It was an enjoyable day because the staff had off, and I was up front, and we were out, and I was in back, but I came up front, and the customer came in and he goes, "Hey Vic, I need you to do something for me." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Hey, could you generate a towing invoice for me?" I'm like, "Sure. What was your repair order number?" "Oh, you didn't tow it in." I go, "Well, what do you mean I didn't tow it in?" He goes, "On my towing insurance, I'm entitled to so many tows a year, and here it is New Year's Eve, and I want to make certain that I'm able to get my full benefit out of my insurance company." And I'm like, "Okay, let's stop for a second. You've asked me to generate an invoice for something that you didn't have done." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Is that okay?" And I go, and I stopped and I said, "But I'll be honest, I can't do it." I said, "And I won't do it because we didn't do it." And he pushed back, and I'm like, "Look," I go, "if I will lie for you, what will prevent me from lying to you?" And he stopped. And he goes, "Oh, good point." Tucked his tail between his legs and Happy New Year. Out the door he went.
I love that. I love that quote.
Yeah.
Lie to you, lie for you. Yeah, you wouldn't want me to lie about a repair.
No.
Wow,
All,
powerful.
all for what, $70? It was like 2011. It was that whopping $70. People want what they're entitled to. And and this is where I want shop owners to hear is if a shop owner, if you're asked by a customer to do something that's not doesn't have integrity in it, don't do it. If he had asked me to do that and I had written the invoice knowing that he was going to turn it into his insurance company, I'd have been participating in insurance fraud.
Sure enough, you were.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your accountant, your bookkeeper, your store manager, from the store manager and bookkeeper's perspective, they should never be overlapping
No.
responsibilities,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
To
Yeah.
to cash management, to systems, they have to be separate.
They must be. The person doing the bookkeeping shouldn't be the one writing the checks. They should be the one doing the books.
Or signing them for that
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah, exactly. They can generate it, but there must be a check and balance. If it requires 2 signatures, yours and someone else's, but that person should not have sole responsibility of tracking the money that comes in and spending the money as it goes out, because again, that's another temptation. That's actually part of one of the reasons of the case study that we mentioned of the 6 figures. This person was responsible for the front counter. They were responsible for writing the checks. They were responsible for doing the bookkeeping. And that cost a tremendous amount of money. And what's funny, talking to this client, it wasn't about the money. It was about the relationship. There's this anger inside because they were like, the relationship will never be the same. And I realize I'm pig trailing off the original thing you asked is I separate church and state. You keep the money that comes in, it's got to be verified that comes in. Bookkeeping's got to be done. And have your accountant oversee it too. Not oversee it on the daily, but if your accountant smells something off, they need to say something. And you need to be willing to listen because you have hired a professional to help you manage your business, to be that trusted advisor. If they say something to you, you need to listen. It's like this client was a relatively new client, and I got their financials and I started looking at the financials. I'm like, something's not right here. It was interesting. The relationship wasn't strong enough yet for me to be able to go, there's a hefty problem here because this person that was involved with this was very close to them. So it was a balancing act. I had to keep nudging. And finally, months later, we got to the bottom of it. It was painful.
I don't like the word months because that
No.
just continues to dig a deeper hole.
No, I don't either. Think of it this way. I had a choice as a coach to go, I can get to the bottom of this, but I have to lead him.
Yeah, no.
He never asked me,
Right.
he never asked me, is there something wrong? As part of our process is looking at the income, looking at the expense side of it, pulling the books in. I was evaluating, but it never was never invited to me to say, hey, do you see something off? I kept trying to crack the door and inviting the question till finally it was like, okay, we got an issue here we need to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump into that chart that you
Mhm.
brought with you that I think is oh so powerful, and I'm gonna call it up here. And if you're listening through audio, we'll attempt to walk through this verbally very well for you. And if you're looking on a YouTube, you can see this and weep.
Mhm. Let's look at the left column in the very first line, very first row. If you lose $1,000, and we know in a shop it's easy to lose $1,000, whether it is a lost core, perhaps something went wrong in the shop, perhaps an accident, you name it, $1,000 is easy to hit. And your shop is at 10% net operating margin. It's going to require you to sell $10,000 worth of work to cover that one loss. Now, we'll stay in the left column for a second. If there's a loss of six figures, and which 3 of our clients have experienced that six-figure loss, think about that for a second. If they've lost 100 grand, they have got to sell $1 million at 10% net operating margin simply to break even on that loss. It's astounding. You can take this the other way, even lower. How much do you have to sell if you have a cabinet brake cleaner, antifreeze? And we deal with that in some of our training. But this stuff here is when you're dealing with income and cash and fraud that can go on in the shop, you're not talking small dollars.
Yeah. And there's so many surveys out there about where's the profit, what an average net profit would be in the industry, and we keep hearing a little bit about 3 and 5%. And so you have a 1%, a 3%, a 5%, and a 10% column here. Of course, the more money you make on the bottom line, the less that you need to recover.
Right.
But who ever wants to recover? Who wants to lose $100,000 at a 10% profit margin, net profit margin, and have to do $1 million to recover it?
Yes.
Because can you imagine the goal of any business is I'm going to add $1 million to my top line? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Or many shops are just cracking that $1 million mark.
Yeah.
I have to do $1 million in sales to make up for $100,000 because I wasn't doing what I should be doing as a shop owner. I hate to call it like that, but this loss column on the left-hand side is totally in our control. We have the ability to ensure that we don't take a loss. We don't have the ability to ensure that on a day-to-day basis, we have some accident happens in the shop. But when it comes to the cash in and cash out, we can take care of that really quickly just by putting a couple of systems in place.
Well, let's look at just the quick reality. Just losing $5,000 and earning, just say 3% net operating income. You got to do $167,000 to make that up.
That's a chunk of change. And if you're doing 3% net operating margin, you're probably not doing $167,000 in a month.
You're probably right.
It's going to take you a lot longer than a month, 2-3 months worth of sales to make that $5,000 loss.
You got to stage that up. You said, so you were going to grow so much per month just to cover the loss, not to add good quality profit to the bottom line, just to cover the loss. So thank you for being so transparent and so honest and bringing all this great dialogue. I hope that we hit home with so many of the people that are in this industry that may be experiencing this, have experienced it, or maybe we can help prevent some big stuff from happening.
I appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk about this. It's not a fun topic to talk about.
No, it's not, Vic. But thank you for this. Come back anytime. Bring us some other examples on fraud. And there's so many other things to talk about. But I thought we really covered this well. I think if you learned anything here in this discussion, and I'm positive you did, now please get it on your to-do list. Put it up at the number one position that you've got to do some of the things that Vic chatted with you about today. Just go get it done. Vic Tarasik, it's shopownercoach.com. Thank you. And former Buffalonian. I know you're from Texas now. And thank you so much for being here, man.
Good to be here. Thanks, Carm.